What does the attempt on Trump's life on January 13th, or July 13th, excuse me, have to do with the Pennsylvania lottery? I don't know. Let's look. It's very interesting for people who do their research to look at things that seem statistically impossible, because many of us, for some reason, don't believe in coincidences anymore. These things that have to do with statistically impossible events make the red flags go up. And when you have statistically impossible events right next to other statistically impossible events, that really raises our suspicion. I mean, I know I've basically, that's one of the biggest things that bleeps on my radar, is when I see just stuff that's just it's not adding up. It makes me look into it. And almost without fail, when I look into stuff like that seems very unlikely, there seems to be wild connections, things that are even more statistically impossible. The more I look into things, the more impossible it becomes, which makes me suspect, not know, but makes me suspect that there's coordination going on, that there's things that are going on by people who are shaking hands behind closed doors, people who are conspiring, dare I say it. So, let's have a look, right? Now, on July 13th, some people did some things. There was a lot of fuckery, and a lot of things were allowed to happen. There was a lot of failures, right? And we've established this. A lot of failures that are statistically impossible. Trump wasn't taken off the stage. There were areas that weren't covered. The zone was ridiculous and had a perfect vantage point for some lunatic to have a go at it. Lots of impossible, statistically impossible things happened. So we all dug into that and talked about it ad nauseum. And so we all already know that. We don't have to go over it again. But almost exactly a month later, on August 12th, some anonymous person stopped at an AJ's Pizza inside of Sunoco, bought a lottery ticket, and won the Powerball, worth $213.8 million. And the interesting thing that really caught my attention was that it was, and I've got a bunch of notes because there's a lot of things that are going to be in this video, so strap yourself in. Allegheny, I think I'm saying that right, Allegheny County is right next door to Butler. They share a border. So almost exactly a month later, some rando wins $213.8 million in the next county. That seems a little sus, doesn't it? If you know about the event that occurred a little while back at a school, the first letters of which are SH, and you know about the connection to the lottery with all the people that were involved with that, you know that this appears to be modus operandi.
Okay, here's our list. I got a whole bunch of troopers, sergeants, detectives, FBI detectives, and you scroll down the list, and we get down to the civilian and law enforcement support. And I saw these names here. So I decided to look up the names to see what they did. Boudreaux, Mattson, Vallot, Lundquist, Varney, Wright, Zito, Rosa. The same last names on several of these people have all won the lottery in the last 2 years. Except for the Lundquists, which won $4 million back in 1998. But we have Varney's, Boudreaux, Plord, Wright, all winning lottery. Once I got to the third or fourth person with the same matching last name, I said, God, you know, Plord is not exactly a common last name. Is Douglas Plord related to Christine Plord? Boudreaux is not exactly a common last name. Come up and win Connecticut lottery within the same year as the Sandy Hook shooting, right before or right after. Or Varney, a V name. Again, Varney, V-A-R-N-E-Y. Not exactly most common last name. Are these relatives that are receiving lottery payments. And this one right here kind of is just weird. Zito, Z-I-T-O, last name Zito. There's these articles that come up when you search their names, the last name of you search Zito, Connecticut, up comes this article. Big lottery dreams does not come true for John Zito, and it says that he didn't win. But then you find out that Zito is the director of education in the town where the lottery is based out of, Rocky Hill. Most likely a relative? I don't know. How common is the last name of Zito? Again, to have a Boudreaux, Plord, Lundquist, Varney, Wright, and Zito all be last names be associated with the Connecticut State Lottery as winners, as last name, or involved in the town where the lottery is based out of, come up as winners in the last 2 years of the Connecticut Lottery. Well, you know, a lot of people say, how would they, if you believe there's a conspiracy, how would they get paid? Well, I don't know. What are the chances all these last names would show up as winners in the last 2 years in the Connecticut Lottery, which is supposedly random? We're talking random on top of random, right? Random last names on top of random winners, and they just so happen to match up in the last 2 years.
This appears to be how a lot of people are getting paid for doing dirty deeds, are getting paid for staging events. And when I say staging events, I don't mean that they're not real. It really ticks me off when people have this false dilemma mindset that it's either fake or it's real. And there's no gray in between. There's so much gray in between, it's unbelievable. There's things that are made to happen. There's things that are allowed to happen. There's things that are partially allowed to happen and then are contorted. There's things that are provoked to happen. There's every possible variation. There's so much gray, it's unbelievable. So this binary thinking, and this is a product of the educational system and the way they report things on the news and the way they show things in movies. They get you to compartmentalize your brain for the Hegelian dialectic. They get you to just think this way or that way, night or day, black or white. They get you to think. That's their power here, is duality. I talk about it all the time. That's the power that they have. The chessboard, the black and white chessboard, right, of the Freemasons. Dark and light, Luciferians and Satanists. They scare us with darkness. They force us to run into the arms of the false light. That's the game being played on earth. They got us playing checkers on that board, and they're playing chess. I've said it before, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. But I'm always assuming that you're watching my videos for the first time, so go back and watch a lot of my stuff because I talk about this stuff all the time. So I'm looking at this lottery, and it's run by a guy named Drew Svitko, the Penn Lottery Executive Director, Drew Svitko. And he was all over this. Every article I read, it was kind of the same cut paste thing, saying the same thing over and over and over again. So it reminded me of the Mockingbird media big time. It was the same information over and over and over again in many different outlets. And that's obviously coordinated. I hope you've seen the video where all the news people are saying the same thing over and over again. This is the exact same thing that they do with news articles that are being reported locally and nationally. They all get the same talking points, 4 a.m. talking point memos. They all just parrot the same shit that they're told from the oligarchs that run everything. And they'll say ridiculous things like, this is a danger to our democracy. What's a danger to our democracy is everybody saying the same thing because unelected people sent them a memo every day. And you don't have reporters, you have the fourth estate that is the propaganda arm of leftist extremists, which is kind of redundant because if you're a leftist, you're an extremist automatically. And no, that's not, I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I'm saying that because it's true. Because as soon as you get past the center point between a republic and you go into the democracy is mob rule. As soon as you cross the line from that center point into democracy, because America is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. It's a representative democracy, but that's not democracy. Everybody's got their term, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, well, they're just using the shorthand. Well, they're speaking incorrectly. And for ignorant people that don't know any better, they're going to push for democracy. And these people use legal jargon. So when the mob talks about democracy, thinking they're talking about fairness, when they talk about equality and equity, which is the monetary value of a person, not equality, people that don't know what they're talking about vote for dumb shit because they don't know what they're talking about, because the people that they're voting for have been feeding them dumb shit, knowing that they don't understand it, and then they vote them in, and then they're like, oh, well, we brought in socialism just like you wanted. What's the problem? Let's go to a camp and have a conversation about it. So, a little bit of a rant there, but this Drew Svitko, that name I noticed is Ukrainian. What else is connected to Ukraine? And this is a stretch. And this, I don't have any answers here, but I have a lot of statistical impossibilities or things that are highly suspect that I hope that you watch this video and you look into yourself. And I hope that every time I do one of these videos, I want my comments to be loaded with information. Oh, hey, I thought about that too. And this is what I found. And this is what I found. Because this is what we should be doing, is unifying and talking to each other in these videos, in these types of posts, and adding to them so that we can augment and learn to function as a bigger and bigger community of people helping each other out and calling out this bullshit. Instead of just saying, oh, what are you going to do? They've always had power. They always will be. Just going to live paycheck to paycheck. Nothing you can do about it. The time for that attitude is over as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry if I'm a little curt, but I'm not trying to be rude. I ended up looking into all this stuff last night, so I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, and I've got a loaded day, and I'm trying to blast through all this information. So if I'm being, my bedside manner sucks a little bit, I apologize. So this Drew Svitko seems to be of Ukrainian heritage, and you've got a lot of people planted in powerful positions, and they're all coordinated, especially when it comes to the Mason connections too. You always kind of tend to find people in positions of power to be Masons, which immediately tells you coordination. If you see all these different players and it's like you got a white guy and a black guy and an Indian guy and they're not really friends or anything like that, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of connection, and then you find out they're all on the same baseball team, you're like, okay, they probably talk about stuff other than baseball. It's immediate implied coordination. Most of these powers are Masons. Most of these people in positions of power are Masons. So if you're one of the sleuths that's on my page, that's on my channels and stuff like that, look that guy up, Drew Svitko. I am as well on my end, but I've been doing hours of studies on this stuff, what I'm giving you here. So Jamil Pandit was the gas station attendant, the gas station owner that was running the pizza place. And it was reported that it was AJ's Pizza, but it was also reported that it was Quick. I'm assuming the Quick is a generic name, whatever. AJ Pizza in the Sunoco. And here's the thing. Jamil is either an Arab or an Indian name. It's in that area. He gets $100,000 for selling the winning ticket. That's interesting, huh? I never knew that. I never knew that just selling the ticket randomly, that's supposed to randomly be there, you get a kickback for doing that. That's a strange. It seems like a strange thing to me, but I don't know the protocol, so maybe it's normal. But I noticed that name goes in that direction, right? And right around the time that the event happened with Trump, they were warning us about Arabs plotting and threatening to do something. So again, a stretch. But then I'm going to say some other things that make it look even more connected. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know. I am the suckiest person to listen to in regards to giving answers, because a lot of times what happens is the more I look, the more questions I have. And I think that should be how it is for the most part, because it's a tangled web. It's always a tangled web of a bunch of people coordinating and conspiring to do fucked up shit. So this guy gets $100,000 just for selling a ticket that he presumably doesn't even know he's selling, right? But what if he knows he's selling it? And what if he's waiting for the right guy to sell it to? Could something like that be coordinated? Maybe. Probably. Has it been done 1,000 times before? Sure looks that way. Sure looks like the lottery is a way to pay people for doing stuff. And then he just won the lottery. He just happens to be in the county next door a month later. And we have to respect his anonymity because we don't want crazies to try to do something crazy to take his money, right? So we don't know who this guy is because he's anonymous. But I guarantee you, I would be willing to bet. I'll say that. How about I don't guarantee you anything because I don't know anything, but I'd be willing to bet that if you look into the winner, if we find out who the winner is and we look into him, he's going to have some wild connections, some very weird coincidences in relation to July 13th. So what I did want to say also, and I don't know where to put this. I didn't know where to put this in the video, so I'll just put it in here. I want you all to understand that the media, the internet, which is the fifth estate, and us, the sleuths, it's controlled. It's controlled. Everything is controlled. So yes, we do get to talk, we do get to coordinate, but then they have all these infiltrators mucking up the information. And people usually are deleted and censorship and all this stuff. There's all kinds of ways. Again, lots and lots of ways to do it. Lots of gray, lots of ways, limited hangouts. So you get somebody like me that's trying to be honest, and somebody will give me a false piece of information, and then I unknowingly share false information and leading people astray. This stuff happens all the time. This is why I'm always preaching discernment. This is why I'm always saying, don't believe me, look into everything that I'm talking about, because I'm just trying to do my best, but I'm not a rocket surgeon. I make mistakes too. So everything is controlled, and it's controlled by AI. They've had AI for a long time. Oh, we just found AI. It's just now being released to the public. It's just now being disclosed on how powerful it is and what it's doing and all this stuff like that. But they've been running everything using AI. The internet is controlled using DeepMind, the DeepMind AI. And the financial system is controlled is controlled by BlackRock, basically. And they're using an AI called Aladdin. So money and information are both controlled by AI, which means that they're in superposition, which means that they know everything everybody's talking about in real time. So between people playing corrupt people, we'll just use the generic secret societies, right? People that are coordinating behind closed doors, shaking hands with their little weirdo handshakes, right? They're coordinating, and then they're working with these AI that knows where everybody's going to be, where everything's going to happen, how to move money, how to know where so-and-so needs to be, right? That would really help with statistically impossible things, wouldn't it? That would really help aligning things that are impossible to align. If you were, I don't know, omniscient, if you knew everything that was going on all the time with everyone that's connected to the internet, if you knew everything that was going on with everything involving money, you can kind of get those two things to connect through statistically impossible events. And I want to close this video with this. Allegheny, I hope I'm saying that right, and Butler County, they share a border. A month later, somebody won $213.8 million. Seems very unlikely. But if you head east to Philly, there were 3 very odd execution type murders. And there's lots of murders everywhere, and there's lots of murders in Philly and everything like that. Not just Philly, but in Pennsylvania. But these 3 just jumped out at me. And it made me think of Seth Rich. And again, maybe I'm reaching big time discernment on you, but it just struck me. I just got like a gut instinct to look into this. And you got three people. You've got Jamil Wyatt, Raheem Jefferson, and Cashapp Johnson. All of these are Arabic names. I looked up the nationalities. The Cashapp may be Indian, but I'm not sure. It was inconclusive. But all three of these appear to be Arab names, and all three of these people have changed last names, which is often indicative of trying to blend in. I don't know these people. I don't know. I've tried to look into them. It's dicey on as far as information is concerned. But all three of these guys were execution style, overkill. Two of them were in daytime. Like all of this was completely. The people did not care what time of day it was. They didn't care if there were witnesses. There were cameras everywhere that have this on film. They waited at a spot for the person, and then they started shooting. And not only did they start shooting, but they came out of the cars. Two of them had three guys. They came out of a car where they had been waiting. They shot. When the person fell, they came out of the car and they stood over them and continued to shoot. One of them had 40 shots in him, and the other one had 58 shots in him. The other one has the exact same thing, only it was one guy, not three. Exact same thing. He was shot. Then the guy came over. He was walking with a friend. He was shot. The guy came over, and with his friend, sat there and kept putting bullets in him to make sure he's dead. Now, what's in Philly? They got a port. What happens at ports? Stuff gets trafficked. What's next to Philly? Delaware. Who lives in Delaware, right? Is it a stretch? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Pennsylvania is heavily involved in a lot of really dirty stuff. You got Montgomery County also sharing a border with Philly, which is where Josh Shapiro lives, the governor of Pennsylvania, who used to be AG and was involved in all kinds of really sketchy calls. But he won the governorship nonetheless, which was very suspect again, because there was all kinds of allegations of voter fraud. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? So Josh Shapiro, Montgomery County, right next to Philly, sharing a border. Delaware, sharing a border. And then you got Penn State, which is involved with Ukraine, which is where Biden basically like home base to deal with all the stuff in Ukraine that they've been doing. And then you got this guy, this Drew guy, who's got a Ukrainian last name. You got all these people that were shot execution style, overkill, making sure that the person was dead. You can almost hear the person say, the guy that ordered it say, you hover over him and keep on pulling the trigger till you know that guy's dead. Who comes over after shooting a person several times and walks up? This Jamil kid was 16 years old. What would he be doing? Gangs, maybe, okay. But all three of these seem statistically unlikely. And Jamil Wyatt has the same first name as Jamil Pandit, as the guy that took $100,000 for selling the winning lottery ticket. Now, I don't think there's any relations as far as family is concerned, but it looks like they came from the same place. Maybe Jamil is like Mike or John. I'm not a scholar as far as nationalities are concerned, but I'm just seeing coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. How many coincidences before it's statistically impossible? This guy, Scott Small, chief police inspector, was in two of the videos, Fox 29, talking about these execution styles. Okay, he's the chief inspector, but he was interviewed by the same guy, Steve Keeley, that was covering the Fox 29 thing. Same guy, wearing the same white coat, blinging, right? And if we know about Masons, they're always on the site. Most police are in a Masonic fraternity. coordination. Why was Steve Keeley wearing the same white coat, weeks apart, giving the same interview, the same type of interview? If you know about the white and checkered coats, white on black, that's the Masonic checkerboard. If you've seen my videos about the red scarf suicides, you know about the calling cards. You know that they sign it. When they do these hits, possibly with MS-13, they're used as hit people, right? And then they hit the hit people, get rid of them like they did with Seth Rich. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. There's so much stuff here. But if you know how they do business, all of this seems coordinated to me. All of this seems connected. Penn State is in the center. Butler and Allegheny is over here. Penn State, Philly, Delaware, Montgomery. One port, dealing with Ukraine shit, assassination, payoff. That's, again, maybe it's a stretch. Maybe I'm just being your typical conspiracy theorist. But there's so many things that to me, shout modus operandi, that shouts, it's the same old shit. Josh Shapiro with all being AG, right? Which I guarantee you, I would bet, rather, I'm going to say that instead again, try to get in the habit of not saying like I know. I would bet there's Soros money that got him into that AG spot so that he would be involved with law and litigation. And then I would bet that if I keep on digging into Josh Shapiro, there's going to be a Smartmatic connection with Dominion voting software, which incidentally, old dude, CEO, just got arrested for bribing people in Florida and all kinds of sketchy stuff, which if you've heard me talk about Smartmatic and the Dominion and all that stuff, 2020 election software that has connections to the internet, and easily hacked, easily hacked. Anybody, I could teach a child how to hack that machine. All these things are just so many coincidences, and especially when you know that Aladdin and DeepMind run everything, run the internet, run the information, and run the money. And then you got strategic people. It wouldn't be hard. Anybody would be able to do it, let alone people with black budgets that have bottomless pits of money to do whatever they want. And that for decades before I was born, know how to launder, know how to talk in secret, freaking gematria for you gematria freaks out there. This stuff, if we had access just to Aladdin and DeepMind, your average schmo could do this stuff. He'd have to be a little bit, smarter than the average bear. But now imagine you have bottomless money, bottomless connections, bottomless coordination. Everything's controlled. Is it that big of a stretch that all this stuff is coordinated? I think it's extremely possible. I'm not talking like I know. Maybe I'm totally off. But that's a lot of coincidences. I think I've said it all. Thank you guys for watching. Please, if you want to dig into the stuff that I've talked to, I would love to hear it. I'm going to continue digging into it and probably talk about it in other videos, but I would love to hear what you guys find for the ones that are sleuths and fancy themselves sleuths. Please actually research your stuff. Don't just come up with random crap and gematria cherry-picked information. In fact, just don't even mess with gematria if you don't know what you're doing. And I meant to thank John. I don't know if he wants me to share his name, but John is the one that gave me the lead for this. Thank you for that. That was very interesting. Thanks for making me stay up all night and not get any sleep. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.